This is one of the most incredible transformations in the animal kingdom. A tiny egg, a ravenous larva, a slumbering pupa, and finally an adult bee ready to take flight. And if you think that's crazy, then get this. The whole thing takes only 21 days. But have you ever wondered how such a small creature goes through so many changes so quickly? Well, today we're gonna find out, because I'm gonna tell you how a baby bee is made in 4 stages. Now, there's a lot going on here, so let's break it down. First things first, bees don't just pop into existence. They hatch from eggs laid by female bees called queens. A queen can lay up to 2,000 eggs in a single day, and each egg is smaller than the head of a pin. But even though these eggs are tiny, they contain all the genetic information needed to create a fully grown bee. In other words, inside this tiny little package is everything it takes to make a brand new bee, including the potential to become a queen itself someday. But hold on, how does an egg turn into a bee anyway? Well, to answer that question, we need to understand the basics of bee biology. Sure, we know they have wings and legs and antennas and stuff. But what really makes a bee a bee? Well, to answer that question, we need to look at what's inside an egg. Inside every bee egg is a single cell, and I mean a single cell. At this stage, it doesn't look like anything yet. It's not a blob or a sphere or anything like that. It's just a single cell, but that doesn't mean it's not doing a lot of work. See, all living things are made up of cells, and cells are like the tiniest building blocks of life. They're the smallest unit of organization in the body that can carry out all the processes essential for life. Every bee starts its life as just one cell, and that cell contains all the instructions it needs to grow into an adult bee. Those instructions are encoded in the cell's DNA, which is stored in structures called chromosomes. Chromosomes are like little scrolls of information that tell the cell how to grow and develop. They contain the genes that determine everything from a bee's size and shape to its color and behavior. So to go back to our original question, it's really the instructions in that single cell's DNA that make it a bee. That's right, it's all about that genetic code. But how does that genetic code turn into wings and legs and antennas and stuff? Well, that's where things get really interesting, you see. As the bee embryo develops, the single cell divides over and over again, creating trillions of new cells. These new cells then start to specialize, taking on different shapes and functions. Some cells become part of the bee's nervous system, while others become muscles, or wings, or legs. This process is driven by the bee's genes, which are turned on and off in different cells at different times. Like imagine a bee's DNA as a giant cookbook filled with recipes for every possible bee part. The genes are the individual recipes, and the cell's job is to read the cookbook and figure out which recipes it needs to use. It's like a game of telephone, really. The DNA in the nucleus of the cell sends a message to the ribosomes, which are like the chefs in the kitchen, and the ribosomes use that message to assemble the proteins that make up the bee's body. Pretty soon, the single cell becomes a mass of cells, and that mass of cells becomes a larva. Now, at this stage, the bee still looks nothing like an adult bee. It's just a little worm-like thing that spends most of its time eating and sleeping. But don't be fooled by its seemingly simple lifestyle. Under the surface, some major changes are taking place. See, while the larva is still a larva, it molts several times as it grows larger. And each time it molts, it sheds its old skin and grows a new, larger one. In fact, during the larval stage, the bee can grow up to 100 times its original size. And it's not just getting bigger. Its body is also starting to take on the basic shape of an adult bee. Its head, thorax, and abdomen are starting to form, as well as its wings, legs, and antennas. And it's all thanks to the same basic process that drives the development of any insect. Cells are dividing, becoming specialized and assembling proteins based on genetic instructions. The difference is that now those instructions are a little more complex. Genes that control things like wing development are turned on, while genes that control level characteristics are turned off. It's like switching channels on a TV remote. Each channel has a different set of instructions, and the cells are the ones doing the switching. But wait, we're not done yet. After the larval stage comes the pupal stage. And that's when things get really weird. During the pupal stage, the bee essentially wraps itself in a little blanket called a cocoon and undergoes a complete transformation. Now, don't worry, it's not like the bee turns into a butterfly or something. It's still a bee the whole time. It's just totally unrecognizable. Like imagine taking a caterpillar and turning it into a moth. The body plan is basically the same, but everything else is different. That's kind of what happens to a bee during the pupal stage. The larval tissues break down and are reassembled into adult bee parts. Wings become legs, antennae become eyes. It's like a game of telephone gone wild. Of course, it's not really that simple, but it's close. And that brings us to the final stage of the bee's life cycle, the adult stage. The newly emerged bee is now ready to mate and lay eggs of its own, and the whole cycle starts all over again. So now you know how a bee goes from a single cell to an adult bee in just 21 days. It's a truly remarkable transformation that involves some of the most complex processes in biology. But hey, that's just the way nature works. And it's not just bees that undergo dramatic transformations. It happens to all living things. From the smallest bacteria to the largest whale, every living thing starts out as a single cell and develops into something more complex. It's the circle of life. And speaking of circles, if you like this video, then be sure to subscribe for more amazing science videos. Thanks for watching.